game, so they get super creative, which is awesome. They love working with the little Lego people, those minifigures, and then they're just playing with their friends and having fun. So our model plans, at this point, we come out with different model plans every year. So we have well over 1,000 different model plans. Every model that we have has a minimum of 2 difficulty levels. That way we're able to have classes that are from kindergarten up to 5th grade, because there's a minimum of 2 and then up to 4. So the hardest one is called a black diamond. So kids love being challenged and trying to do the black diamond model and seeing if they can complete that, because those are really, really complicated. And we actually usually don't do black diamond models in the after-school classes because they're that hard. And again, it's step-by-step instruction, so they really have to be patient. Some of these models can be as much as 20 steps or more, so they have to really have that patience to follow each step, like I said, to a T, so that their model's going to work at the end. And we have a lot of different themes. So I just mentioned a few, like transportation, lots of different dinosaurs. I had one kid, he's so into dinosaurs. I turned around in class one time and he built like 7 dinosaurs. Renewable energy, which is a really fun educational one. So, solar panels, windmills, water wheels, things like that. And then the really fun themes that the kids like. So like Minecraft is always going to be the most popular one. Also like Star Wars, Disney. We've got like Super Mario, Fortnite, Harry Potter, lots of different ones. So for our after-school enrichment program, those happen on site. Bricks for Kids here in Polk, we're 100% mobile. So we go to the schools that want us, into rec centers, daycares, things like that. So we come with everything that's needed for the class or the field trip. An after-school class is typically going to be once a week at a school, immediately after school, about 60 minutes long. Some classes are up to 90 minutes long. And sometimes we do offer it twice a week if it's like really popular at that school, and we will offer it twice a week. And then the sessions can be as short as 4 weeks or as long as a full semester, because I've had parents at schools just say, hey, I don't want to sign up multiple times throughout the semester. I just want to sign up once at the beginning of the fall and then once at the beginning of the spring and just send my kid every day or once a week to this class. So it really depends on what the school wants us to do and what feedback we get from the parents. And the registration, that's all on our website. So we have a website where we handle all that information. Parents can just go online. They can see, okay, is there a class at my child's school? Can I sign up for that? And then we do flyers and stuff like that, of course, so parents know that there's this class taking place at their child's school. Our average class size is 16. I've had classes, I have a teacher right now doing a small class, only like 4 or 5 kids, and then we have other classes that can be up to like 20 or 21, so it can be a really small group, it could be a larger group. Generally 16 is like the sweet spot in my opinion. So some of the goals, like I said, we're introducing STEM fundamentals. Specifically, we're really heavy on the mechanical engineering and the civil engineering concepts. So civil engineering, like how to build a strong bridge, how to build a strong wall that's not going to be knocked over easily, those types of things. Mechanical engineering, they're learning a lot of terminology like gears and axles. They're learning about gear ratios and torque, which I didn't even know what it was till I learned it in the concept of Lego, so that's really awesome. They're developing spatial awareness, so they have to create a 3-dimensional object from this 2-dimensional image. So that can be really challenging. They have to figure out how is it oriented, what's the front of the model, what's the back, the top, the bottom, all of this. They're also developing their fine motor skills. Some of the pieces that they're working with can be really tiny. Some of the pieces can be like weird shapes or they could be bigger. So they're developing their fine motor skills. And when they're growing their self-esteem, they're growing their confidence in solving problems. And I've seen it happen so quickly where when they first do a class, they are just frustrated when they run into a problem and they just don't know what to do. And then as time goes on, they have a lot more confidence in, okay, I obviously made a mistake somewhere. Let me go back and see where I made the mistake and let me figure out how I can fix it. So they really grow their confidence in their ability to solve their own problems. And then important classroom skills that they're learning, that's going to be like organization, because we use what's called a project kit, so they have to organize that. They have to clean up at the end of every class, put things back where they belong. Again, they're learning patience and following directions. And then again, collaboration and teamwork, because they have to work with a partner to build this model. So these are the schools where we have a class already. Some of these schools we've been in for a really long time. So like Winston Academy, there's been a Bricks for Kids after school program there since before I was even involved in Bricks for Kids. So upwards of 6-7 years now. A lot of these schools just started this year because what we did was we opened it up to Polk County Schools teachers and we said, hey, if you want this program at your school, we will give you the training on this curriculum, we will give you the supplies that you need, and we will handle any marketing that needs to be done, all the registrations, and we can bring the program to your school that way. And then the teacher gets to pick, where are they going to have the class, what day of the week are they going to do it, what time's it going to be. So that's been a really awesome thing this year. And it's hard to put into words because I've just met like a lot of amazing people. Our in-school field trips, that's something we want to try to do a little bit more of starting next year. A lot of schools don't know we offer this, but it's just a way to bring Bricks for Kids to a school where maybe they can't really commit to an after-school class. We can come in during the day. The teacher can pick something related to maybe what they're learning that day. We give them our unit catalog, and we just come in for 45 minutes to an hour, and we build a robotic model. And it can be upwards of, up to 24 students per classroom. So just some statistics that I like to keep in mind. Obviously not every child is going to grow up to have a career in STEM, but as of 2021, there were 10 million workers in STEM occupations, and that's going to grow about 11% in the next 10 years. That's over twice as fast than the total for all other occupations. And then the median annual wage is also higher. So as of, again, 2021, so it's probably even higher now, that the median annual wage was $95,000 for STEM. For non-STEM, the average was $40,000. Those are, of course, probably both higher now, though. So I just wanted to end, this is kind of a silly quote, it's from the Lego movie, but it's really accurate to me because it's how we want kids to feel in Bricks for Kids. It says, "You're the most talented, most interesting, most extraordinary person in the universe. You are capable of amazing things." And that's Emmett from the Lego movie. But that's really accurate because that's just really how we want them to feel after they're doing Bricks for Kids. And that is how they feel. They just get a lot of confidence and they really flourish, and it's really awesome. So I'm excited for everything else we're going to keep doing. And thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them for you.
Ms. Miller.
Hi, thanks for coming today. I'm familiar with Bricks for Kids. My daughter participated. Oh, you remember?
Yeah, of course I remember.
My question is, how would a school requests this, what does it take for them to start the program? Is it a monetary, is there an amount that is needed to fundraise? How is the program funded?
So it's all funded by parents. So if they want to sign up, they go on the website and they pay for it. So again, it's generally been really successful. Like I said, I only had, out of all of those schools, only one of them I would consider kind of not a success, like we maybe wouldn't repeat it because it only had 4 students. But generally, as long as there's enough interest for a few kids and they want to do it for like a short session, then that's up to them. We can definitely do that.
Is it the same time after school? Is it like 1 hour?
Yeah, it's generally when the Polk County Schools teachers are doing it, it's 3:30 to 4:30. If we're sending one of our own after-school instructors, it's generally a little bit longer, like Winston Academy's 3 to 4:30.
Okay, thank you.
And we will be following up with you as well. I've been in touch with Ms. Everett. One of our elementary schools was very fortunate, Garner, to be included in a federal grant that would allow us to create a STEM academy on that campus.
Oh, yeah.
And so this would be a fantastic opportunity for us to tap into Lego robotics and Lego engineering for those students. So we will definitely be reaching out to see if you can at least provide some consultation, and then maybe we can incorporate some of the programs there as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So thank you. I don't see any other questions or comments listed. So thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, the next item before us, I'll bring Joshua McLemore up to the front. This is an item we've spoken about on several occasions over the last 2 months. We were waiting for final numbers to come in for the recommendation for Haines City. This would be a temporary upgrade to the portable situation there to allow us to ensure that we have enough capacity for both Ridge and Haines City over the next 3 years, while the construction of a potential new high school or expansion were to take place. So, Mr. McLemore.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Board Members, Superintendent. Josh McMore with your Facilities Planning Division. So as the Superintendent's already alluded to, what we're bringing before you is a request that we are needing to add additional portables to Haines City Senior High School. As we are all intimately familiar, the Northeast is growing at an exponential rate. So we are needing to help provide additional capacity to Haines City Senior High School to help accommodate for not just what we are expecting this fall, but what we are expecting over the next 2 to 3 years. So we need to make sure we are planning far enough ahead that we are providing ample space. So there are two components with this. One, I'll call out here. We'll start from right to left. So I've outlined the area where the portables exist as they are today. Those who are familiar with the Haines City Senior High School campus, this area where the portables are sitting on today actually used to be used by the women's softball team. That was their dedicated softball field. So with this, we were trying to resolve two issues that the campus is facing. One, providing additional portables for future growth, but also with the establishment of a new softball area for the women's softball team itself, which would be located just south of the soccer field. Again, this is just an overall fish map, which pretty much is just the campus layout for the area. If you look towards the bottom of the map itself, next to the north arrow, you can see where the boxes, portables, are actually shown over the actual women's softball field. And so it seems like this is a little bit of a busy slide here, but what we're looking at currently on the left-hand side here are what we consider our traditional portables. There's I want to say avoided space between that we have to provide between each portable for fire code reasons. So it's not necessarily the most efficient means of using what little space or footprint you may have at a campus or location. And so in working with staff and working with the campus administration, Principal Lane, Regional Superintendent Collins, we pretty much arrived at the understanding that we're pretty much going to be pulling back the 19 portables that are listed there. The ones we'll be pulling back are the ones with the red triangles. There are 6 what we call stackables that are already on site, and by the term stackable, we're just meaning 2 portables that are physically touching side by side. There is no physical separation between each unit, thereby making more efficient use of what footprint you have. And so I've outlined those in the green boxes. I've annotated those 20 through 25. So our plan would be, we're going to remove the existing portables that are on site. We've already identified tentative locations at surrounding schools that are going to be needing additional student capacity. And then we will bring in new stackables and pretty much have them arrayed as in our proposed layout here. Big key takeaways here, that with the proposed layout, the school would get a net gain of an additional 133 student stations. Currently, right now, Haines City Senior High School has a total fish capacity of 3,066 units. So with this net gain, they would be sitting at around 3,199 student stations. Based off the recent blue sheets, our student enrollment projections for this fall, they will have more than ample capacity to accommodate the students for this fall, but also the next preceding years. Now, in terms of financial impact, again, I need to emphasize some of these are very estimate. These are cost estimates. We're still working with our design professionals to go through our due diligence process to really get you a finite, refined number here. But again, facilities felt comfortable that we do have a firm grip or a better idea of what it's going to cost in terms of what this project's going to be looking at. I'll go ahead and run through them right now. For the initial setup, it's going to be looking around $140,000 in year one, and then the relocating of the 19 existing to adjacent schools. That relocation fee, it's a flat fee. It doesn't matter if they have to go across the street or across the county. It is a flat fee. It doesn't matter where that portable is going to be relocated. So if 19 portables are relocated, you're looking at $125,000, and then the one-time setup for the new stackables that are being brought on campus, you're looking at just over $383,000, and then the actual recurring yearly lease. That number we do know, that is locked in terms of a lease, and you're sitting at just under $760,000 per year. Now, that fee includes renting the actual stackable as well as what we call decking. It's just like a metal platform, if you will, that the kids will actually traverse and actually walk across in between each stackable itself, similar to what Bartow Senior High School had. They had some stackables on site, if you've seen those. And then lastly, this is a cost estimate from our design professional and construction department. Again, it is a cost estimate, but the construction of a new softball field in that designated area, we're looking at around $2.2 million for the construction of a softball field. And then looking at the recurring costs for years 2 and 3. And with that, I mean, that concludes my portion of the presentation. I'm sure you're going to have questions.
Joshua, if you wouldn't mind, go back to the slide that shows the comparison between the current field and the new field. I'd just like to point out a couple things for the board. The next one, the one with the red triangles. There you go. Board members on the left side, as Mr. McLemore pointed out, those would be the portables that would be relocated. We were very conscious of the fact that we're locating up to 30 portables out in that area, that we needed to do some other enhancements as well. You will notice that there are office spaces there, so a grade level administrator will be out there, whether it's a dean or an assistant principal as yet to be determined, as well as counseling offices, and there are now 2 portable restrooms that are in proximity. We use those at several of our schools. They're high quality, they're easy to clean, they're well maintained, and again, as Mr. McLemore also pointed out, there will be decking that will keep students up out of the ground, off the ground, so if there's ever inclement weather, they're not going to get pooling of water and mud and those types of things because the decking runs just above ground level, as you know. So I just wanted to point those things out to you. And again, this is a temporary recommendation. Obviously, the faster we make a decision, and we'll be bringing some proposals to the board at the upcoming meetings about the new high school location or other options, this would be a temporary option for us so that we could make sure we have more than enough capacity on our campuses. And I see Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. Just a couple of questions, if I could. Looking at slide 4 that's currently up on the screen there, I noticed if you look in the bottom right corners of each of the pictures, they exactly match. It says current, permanent stations, 2448, 27 portables. If you look at resulting, it gives you the exact same numbers. So I'm not sure I know what's changing.
That's a typo on mine. That's an error on our behalf here. So the current portable fish station, let me start over. The current total fish stations right now for Haines City Senior High School it's 3,066, not 3,075. But the resulting total fish capacity, which would be the resulting on the right-hand side, should read 3,166.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get my arms around, you're taking out a group and you're putting in a group, but we're not netting that much more. Am I correct?
We're netting 133, so approximately 5 and a half portables.
Portables is all we're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, explain to me, because I don't know, what is a stackable portable?
So we're familiar with what the, I'm going to say,
The regular.
old or regular
Yeah,
portable,
yeah,
right.
okay.
I mean, they have to be separated. You can't have them touching side by side.
Correct.
Stackable means that it is an actual portable relocatable unit, but you don't need to separate them. You can literally, they put them side by side, touching one another. Not stacking vertically, but stacking side by side.
Stacking horizontally,
Correct.
and that's good because of usage of space?
Yes, ma'am. It's far more efficient use
Okay.
of footprint.
They don't, do they share restrooms or
No, ma'am.
common?
They're all individual.
They're all individual. Okay, it's just a space thing, which we don't have much of. I guess, and the next question I had was for Superintendent, you kind of touched on it. This is another Band-Aid to a really big issue on that campus of the number of students. I don't know what your thought is, but I almost wish we could, we had always talked about on that women's softball field, once we could move and you remember, we went out, okay, that we had eventually put an actual building there. And now that we're relocating the softball field, that's going to help that whole sector of the community that needs, a place to practice and play. And I know you just vaguely said in the next few meetings, we're going to be getting, okay, so what's your thought? Because we really need another building back behind there.
So this is my recommendation, and much to your credit, we will actually get 33 portables in a space that currently only has 20 some odd, because they are stackable.
I understand.
It's also, let's be honest, a lot of those portables are older. We can repurpose them elsewhere for other purposes, not just student sections. They are office spaces and things of that nature. I think the community deserves that. My recommendation is that we move forward with this because we do need a solution for the next
Sure,
2 years
quickly.
while we build a high school.
I understand.
The board received the initial information about the high school proposal from me on Friday, or from me on, yes, I believe Friday morning or Thursday, with the estimated current cost. Now, that's not the final gross cost. We're waiting on that number, and our team predicts that while the initial cost came in at 175 to 200 million for a new high school, yeah, your face did exactly what my face did when I
Right.
read the number.
I remember when they were 60 to 80, but okay, that's
Yes,
been a
ma'am.
few
Well,
years.
and keep in mind, Davenport High School
wasn't that long.
was 110.
Right.
And
all
so at the end of the day, that cost price was based off what other schools are currently being built, and our architect works as aggressively as he can. Now, again, that's not the final cost. Our team is suggesting that number will come down anywhere between 135 to 155. That's still a high number. And so, as I shared in my communication with the board, I will be bringing other options. And that other option is the potential that maybe we don't build a new high school. Maybe we're going to expand the footprint on several campuses now, utilizing those same dollars, and we can talk through those options. That second option would require that we expand the cafeteria and kitchen space to support additional students. It's not ideal. But I have to look at this from a fiduciary responsibility perspective and say, I can build one school at this incredibly high price because of interest rates and because of costs associated with COVID and market value, and hopefully we'll see that come back down. Or do we build a new wing on 3 or 4 of our high schools for approximately the same amount of money and still accomplish what we need to accomplish by creating space? So that's what I'd like to bring before the board in the future,
Okay.
and that will come at the next meeting.
And keep in mind, I am hearing from the community. We did your wonderful community tours, and several folks have reached out to me after the fact and said, don't forget to look inward into the communities. There are some people that are willing to talk to us about using their property, possibly helping us to build. I just think we need to look at all the options because that area is doing nothing but growing.
Correct.
And to keep putting, as I call it, Band-Aids on it, we really need to get a permanent structure somewhere up there. Here we thought Davenport High School was going to be the end-all, and here we are looking for a new place. I get it, but
That cost, it excluded property purchase.
I understand because we already had
That's
it.
the scary number.
I understand.
Is what the uncertainty about what that's going to cost us. So this school, let's say worst-case scenario, could easily hit 230 million, 220 million, easily with property acquisition. So it's something for us to take seriously and take
Absolutely.
into consideration, so.
Thank you. And I was going to ask one more question. When do you feel this will be accomplished? Will this be by August for the kids to come to school?
I'm happy to report that our Dwight Marsh and the maintenance team, actually all of facilities and operations, they have done a phenomenal job. They've already started making prepping conditions now. We've already removed, working with Principal Lane and the administration, portables that have they're indicated with the red triangles, 1, 2, and 3. Students have been moved out of those portables into other portables. Those 3 portables are already gone. They've already started moving fence out of the way. We're working with our vendor. We already have, it's almost like a military operation. We have them pre-staged and we're ready to roll.
You're all ready. So you think it'll be in for August? That's
Yes, ma'am.
My question.
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
wonderful. Okay, great. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate it.
Ms. Fields?
Thank you. This question is for you, Superintendent Hyde. At what point do we say that we are not going to add any more capacity at a high school because of the idea that it's getting large, population of the students? And that I know the cost of building a new school is horrendous. I understand that. But again, just concerned about the largeness of the campus and the intimacy that the students might lack
Yes, ma'am.
because of that?
Yes, ma'am. Research supports, I believe it's out of the University of Massachusetts, supports that the ideal size for a high school is 600 to 900 students. We don't have the capacity to build schools that quickly or to meet that type of need. But I would agree with you that when you start looking at campuses that are exceeding 3,000 students, you're starting to get far too large. This was a temporary solution, and again, I think we need to have more conversation about when we're going to invest upwards of 150 to $200 million, what's the best way to invest those dollars in our community, in our schools? And they don't necessarily have to go. We could expand our footprint on other existing campuses like Lake Region, Auburndale, and others, which would allow growth, but that would require rezoning as well. So those are the things we just have to talk through, and I believe, we should be transparent. I should give you all the options before you have to make a decision, and before I come to you with a formal recommendation. So that's what I plan to do.
Okay, and the other comment is that when the sales tax referendum was initially presented to the community, it was with the understanding that we were going to be ridding ourselves of portables. And so now, we're adding more. I understand that that's something that we have to do, but I think we have to keep that under consideration as well, especially when we're having conversation with the county commissioners.
Absolutely, absolutely. It comes along with the growth and concurrency and everything else that's happening all simultaneously. Mr. McLemore and I are on the same page that there's some things we're going to be meeting with the county about to finalize and be able to move some options forward. We do have other options as a school district, but I like the idea of building a high school. And what we may have to do, quite frankly, is sit down with Peggy and her team and Joshua and say, you know what, we're not going to build. Right now, the model is being built using the same specifications as Davenport High School. Not necessarily the same layout. The architects can do whatever they want, but we've provided them with the number of classrooms, number of restrooms, square footage, special programs. This school will actually be cheaper because we did not intend on putting a culinary program there. So we would actually going to save several $1 million by not having to put in all that equipment because they're going to go more ag and into some other areas. But we could continue to work to right-size that building, reduce its overall footprint, and put the infrastructure in, and then put a phase 2 on it later with growth. Does that make sense? So we could build it now to address the needs that we have with our current growth and our ability to rezone and alleviate some of that enrollment pressure on our schools, but also put the infrastructure in, lay the footprint for the next building, so as growth came, we're prepared for that. And that would help reduce some of our costs as well. So please know we're exploring all the options to bring before you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Sharpless.
As I look through here, I understand some of these expenses are estimates, and you acknowledge that. I was just wondering, when it comes before the board, will we have actual figures or by that time, or will it still be estimated?
We will do everything we can to get you the exact dollar amount. I know we have our design professionals, they are engaged right now as we speak, to try to get us more of a locked-in number here.
And then my other question is, again, this isn't directly involved with this, but when we have some of these, larger figures, do we have benchmark data with this, benchmark expenses where we can compare, hey, this is a typical cost for this? Just that would help me in my decision-making ability. Overall, I know we have to have more capacity at this school. There's no doubt, but I'd just like to know from the financial standpoint, do we have any benchmark data?
We can provide that in our next presentation for you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Actually, we'll just provide it in a follow-up.
Okay, thank you.
And if a formal presentation comes back on this topic, then yes, we would be more than happy to address that. We do benchmark against our current pricing structure because, again, we're not novice to the portable usage. These stackables are currently being used in several of our campuses now. Chain of Lakes and our Civics Academy out at Citrus Ridge are both utilize this as well. So we have some experience with it. So the pricing is established, and we can piggyback off of other pricing. So once it's negotiated in the state of Florida by any county, we have the means to piggyback off of that pre-negotiated price. So we do a good job competitively putting our needs out to bid, so we can show that. As far as the costs for relocation, initial setup, we'd have to provide you with a breakdown just to show it's more manpower and labor than it is anything else.
Thank you.
Thankfully, in this site, we actually saved quite a bit of time and money because the infrastructure is there for IT, power, and water. So we're very lucky. Even on the soccer field, if you go back to that slide, the softball area, which is adjacent to the soccer field, is, as you can see, there are two small buildings off to the side there. One of the reasons we selected that site was to put them close to the already existing field house restrooms and concession stands to make it convenient for all. Because we had looked at other options like purchasing property, moving it across the street where we already own property. I mean, we had other options, but right now this made the most sense for us. And it would become, the nice part is the lighting would help out as well. So, and that's where some of the costs are for the field. Dr. Allen?
Thank you, Superintendent. I would just say that I'm probably with Ms. Fields on some of her sentiments as it relates to portables. But overall, I was just curious on the walkways. Are we looking at concrete walkways, or is it just a recognition of this is what a walkway is going to look like? And then if it is concrete walkway, is that included in the construction cost as well?
So by walkway, it's not concrete, it's raised metal grates.
Okay.
And that is already captured in that. We actually rent the walkway, decking is what it's referred to as, but it is already captured into that lease cost.
Gotcha. And so just so I can understand, we're adding 133 students, which is then going to bring the total to 760 students that this new lease is going to accommodate as far as capacity.
Oh, okay, make sure I understand your question. So the new total fish capacity will be 3,166, excuse me, yeah, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're currently at 3,066.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just trying to understand because the portable stations says 627, and then I was seeing that you're going to add 133 student stations.
Correct. So after we account for the 95% fish utilization, it equals it out to be a net gain overall of 133.
Gotcha.
Part of the problem too, Dr. Allen, is that second slide to the left. Mr. McLemore acknowledged that that's typo. He needs to update that slide.
Good deal. And so when we look at the net of 133 students, is that work into like our equation in regards to growth factors and how many students are graduating and so forth?
Yes, and looking at what the current blue sheets were just as they were released, looking at what their projected enrollment is for this fall, but also looking at least in terms of planning how we project student enrollments for the next 2 to 3 years, that'll still leave them room to grow.
In addition, Dr. Allen, the board will start to see the recommendations from the Attendance Boundary Committee for the high school rezoning, which would impact this as well. So those two items running concurrently would create more capacity as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Nolte.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. Since I've been a teacher, I was always happy to see when they put covered walkways to those portables we had to go to. I know we're in a drought now, but as soon as we start construction, I'm sure we'll have monsoons coming. Is there an option we can put covering on those sidewalks
So
to get to the main building so when they get dismissed, they don't get soaking wet? Or between class changes and things?
it can be accomplished, however, the price point is extremely expensive per square foot of actual covered walkway, and then the actual additional cost of concrete to pretty much create like a network, if you will, linking this section to the actual main campus. In terms of linear feet, you're talking, at least just to get to where the portable restroom is on the right-hand slide, up to the nearest sidewalk up in the upper left-hand corner, you're talking several hundred feet just to connect there. And state requirements, DOE doesn't require us to put in covered walkways until portables have been on site for 4 years. So again, we're hoping this is just a temporary measure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mr. McLemore, there's no further questions. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to bring Ann Everett, Senior Director for the Office of Acceleration Innovation, forward to talk to the board about a new program initiative called Commitment Day for the class of 2023.
Good morning, everybody. It's good to see you again. So this is an accompaniment to graduation. And I have to say, and I know I'm not alone in this, graduation is my absolute favorite season of the year. It's about what has happened with the kids since we've had it from pre-K to 12. So anything with graduation is always a win, followed by the first day of school every year. That's always super exciting for me, too. So the idea behind Commitment Day, I'm sure that many of you have probably heard of College Signing Day, right? Everyone is, that May 1st official is kind of a national thing where you commit to the college of your choice, and that's College Signing Day. So this kind of builds upon that idea, but instead it really expands this opportunity to all of our seniors, right? In celebrating whatever they're committing to after graduation, whether that is a college, a trade school, a technical school, the military, the workforce, whatever that may be, we want to celebrate and acknowledge their commitment. Graduation oftentimes is seen as the goal of what we do as a K-12 system, but really graduation is that springboard, right, to everything else that we've prepared them to accomplish. And so that's what this is about, a way to really acknowledge and celebrate every senior and whatever their commitment is after graduation. So the schools will host their event between April 17th and April 28th, and they signed up for those dates. I know that there's a little glitch on the paper that we need to confirm. So the schedule of events that you have in front of you, if you'll write draft on that, and we'll update that and provide that to Ms. Vega so we can make sure that those are confirmed. But each event should last approximately an hour to an hour and a half. And I think the best way to describe it is it's kind of that combo between a pep rally and kind of a formal, almost senior awards event. It's kind of that hybrid, right? We want it to be lively. We want it to be peppy. We want family to join us. We want community members who have supported our students to be there as well, school board members, executive staff to be there. But they're also going to have a schedule of events as they progress through the event. And so the idea is we'll welcome the students. Some schools have guest speakers planned and other addresses. They may have featured events from students. It could be a singer. It could be a drum student, something to highlight. It could be a student reading a poem about graduation, whatever it is that that senior class wants to celebrate. And then as they begin to honor those students, they will cross the stage as a group. So imagine if we said all the students that are committing to FAMU and they cross the stage as a group. On the screen behind them is the FAMU's emblem. We celebrate them. They will each receive a mini Sharpie marker that says Commitment Day 2023 to commemorate the event. They cross the stage, there's a huge banner, they sign their name, and then at the end, of course, the banner is signed by all of the students, and it's hung up. And then you might have students joining the Army, and they cross the stage, and students joining the workforce, however that may look. And we just celebrate them, we cross it. The banner can be hung at school, kind of to give an idea to the underclassmen of what's coming, what they're working towards, right? And just one more way to highlight and celebrate our seniors. A couple of other things that are happening alongside this, our community district liaisons, or community liaisons, are working with our business partners to come up with gifts for our seniors, drawings. It could be luggage, it could be computers, it could be personal items that they may need, all sorts of things that seniors can use after they graduate as well. And then we're working with PR to make sure that this is really plastered everywhere across social media so that we can just highlight and celebrate our seniors one more time. We have all of the schools participating. I can share with you, like one of the technical academies, they are so excited. I've talked to them a couple of times, and their kids were thrilled to be included. They're like, so often we're not always considered as part of the traditional schools, and they are planning a huge celebration, and their kids are so excited. So it's really nice to kind of see and hear the plans come together. I will say we had a committee of people that really kind of planned this event, because we do have, and I want to acknowledge, we do have several schools that have done a very similar event like this for years. I know Mulberry and Frostproof and Lake Gibson and Winter Haven, and so they were instrumental in helping us kind of draft out this plan for the district as well. So kudos to them, and we appreciate them so much. Not sure if there are any questions.
Ms. Miller?
Yes, thank you. Lake Gibson is a great experience if you're available that day to come see. They've done it well for a long time, so I'm super proud to be a part of that. I just wanted to add that we have very few kids participating in transition, students moving on 18 to 22 to practice employability skill training, and I'm hoping we can improve that by having this. If they're going to go into employability skill training, they follow that workforce. But I would like to encourage that they're included, and we celebrate that transition, because we've got to move the numbers. The new legislation has now said that we start planning transition very young. But what we're finding is students have no idea of what to do. So I think if they see their peers moving on in that employability workforce side, that we may encourage them to do that as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they're incorporated in this.
Yeah, I think that's a great note, and I'll be sure to highlight that. One of the things we have focused on is that every child has a story and every child has a plan, or we need to make sure they have a plan.
Right.
And so what does that look like for them? And they should be celebrated with their peers as well. And I think what we'll see is this first year, especially for schools that may not have done this in the past, everyone's kind of anxious about what this is going to look like and what does this mean, and they know they're going to have, the spotlight on them with different guests and things like that. And then it will continue to build and improve as the kids kind of also engage in that activity and look forward to it. I know some schools are like, the kids are like, what is this about? And why am I giving you this information? And what are we going to do? And what do I get? And I think this first year will be kind of that experience for the kids to kind of see and hear, and then after that, it'll just grow and grow. But yes, I will definitely make that point and ask, how are we highlighting those students as well?
Thank you.
That's a great point.
There are no further questions on that.
Okay, moving on to one.
Everett will stay here. The next item for her is the expansion of our on-campus collegiate programs beginning for the 23-24 academic school year.
Okay, so this one is really about, as you know, we have lots of accelerated opportunities for our high school students, from the International Baccalaureate schools to the Cambridge programs, dual enrollment, advanced placement, and of course we can't forget about our Career Academy friends that also do amazing things in articulation agreements and dual enrollment opportunities through those programs as well. This one is about how do we ensure that, or provide opportunity for our students to stay on our campuses and then culminate at their time that they're getting their high school diploma, they're also finishing their Associate of Arts and or Associate of Science degree without having to leave the campus. Dual enrollment is a fabulous opportunity for all kids, but a lot of times it's about who can travel. We do have a lot of on-campus dual enrollment, but there's a lot of students who want to take additional coursework, but traveling can sometimes be that barrier for them. So how do we bring that program to the campus for these students? And that's what this is about, is to begin an on-campus collegiate program at 2 of our high schools this coming school year, Lake Region High School and Ridge Community High School. And then hopefully we also build it in a manner that it can be expanded to all of our different high schools across the district. Some of the benefits of this program of being on campus, of course, is no cost for our students. It may be that we need to provide summer dual enrollment coursework on the campuses as well and work with our students, because they may need opportunities to get just a couple of extra classes in order to finish their senior year with that AA degree or that AS degree. And so we'll build in the summer programs as needed to ensure those students have the opportunity. The college coursework will be provided either by our own staff that have been credentialed by Polk State to actually offer those courses, or when necessary, we can bring Polk State staff in to teach the classes on our campus for our students. And of course, the students have to meet their minimum eligibility requirements as required by Polk State, because they have their pieces that have to be met as well. Our next step with your support, we hope to go ahead and engage in that articulation agreement and get all of this kind of written down on paper so that we can agree to all the different pieces that we need to. We also want to build in a piece. One of the things that we're always conscious of is, as we provide accelerated opportunities for students, we also need to make sure that they have all of the supports that they require to be successful, right? And so one of the ways that we can ensure the on-campus collegiate program provides those supports and interventions, if necessary, is making sure that our staff has access to their academic records from the college, right? And that's simply a formalized process, but we don't often engage in that. So we're going to make this an actual official piece of this articulation agreement, where the student and the parent is ensuring that our team members have access to those records to ensure that we're not missing a student that may need intervention or support. As we build the program, we're beginning it with the end in mind. So it's not a 1 year at a time. It's really about what is the 4-year plan for these students before they ever begin. Because the last thing we want to do is start a program and then we get a glitch somewhere in the middle where we didn't think of a class, we didn't think of an elective, we didn't make sure that we had qualified staff to teach that course. So it's really about planning the 4 years before the students ever start. And then, of course, the targeting of hiring teachers. So when these two principals begin to engage in their hiring process for next year, which they're doing right now, really selecting and identifying and recruiting teachers for us that have those master's degrees in the specific areas required in order to teach those dual enrollment courses and to be credentialed by the college. And then one of the next things we have to do, which is always the fun part as well, is working with PR to brand those programs. And so it will be, you know, I'm not sure exactly what it'll be, but it will be specifying that it's a collegiate program on the high school campus. Like, yes, they are part of that high school campus. They remain a Bolt or they remain a Thunder. Is it a Thunder? I'm not sure. But part of the Thunder family, but they're also this college student earning their associate degree at the same time. So we're super excited and we hope to have your support in that initiative.
Mr. Sharpless.
First, very supportive of this. You know, with HB1 passing and being signed into law, we're in competition.
Absolutely.
And we need an academic attractor at every school. I know personally Lake Region is in my district. I've talked with Principal Hardy. This kind of program is what's needed to attract students to that school. So I want to thank you for pursuing this. I do have one question. I don't know if this is for you, if this is for Superintendent Hyde, but in order to attract, we said part of that is we have to have teachers that are credentialed for this. So are we offering any kind of supplement or any kind of, how are we recruiting teachers for this?
Many of our teachers already meet the requirements for dual enrollment certification. Through state statute, if they meet the minimum qualifications, they already qualify to teach those classes. Those qualifications were recently adjusted additionally further so even more of our staff would qualify to teach those classes. In order for us to partner, we do follow the curriculum and the syllabi that's typically provided by the college university for each one of those courses. Our teachers then follow along with that. We typically also use the college's midterms and finals so that there's a great deal of support and transparency and comfort knowing that our teachers are teaching these classes with the same level of rigor as they would had they been taught on a college campus. In other areas, for example, it may not necessarily be uncommon for us to work directly with the college and say, here's a gap. And our students, the whole point of having it on campus is eliminate transportation as a barrier to students gaining access to early college, what we call it early college or accelerate college options. So what we would typically do is look to see if we're justified in even part-time contracting with one of their professors or employees to come on our campus and teach the class. So there are various options that we've already been in discussions with. So that's how we would cover those. But again, many of our teachers already meet the criterion to be credentialed.
And if I may, a lot of teachers are interested in teaching these courses and knowing that they're part of that comprehensive program. That alone is an attractor for many teachers as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Chair Wyatt?
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. So looking at where we have our Cambridge IB programs, the new collegiate programs, they tend to stop the further west you go. Is there any, looking at the Lakeland area, are there any options? Tenor Rock's kind of the last stop before you get to Lakeland. Are there any, looking at expanding to Lakeland for any of these programs over the next couple of years?
The idea is that it will expand and hopefully include every high school. We haven't actually mapped out the expansion plan as far as which schools and when. That'll come hopefully in this next stage as we begin to look at articulation agreements and the expansion overall across the district.
Just as we
That's a
look,
good point.
even the north corner moving, Haines City's got IB, now we'll have Ridge, but looking at that south east corner as well with Frostproof and Fort Meade, making sure that we're all very central, which is great for those of us that live in Winter Haven.
Exactly.
But
And as you know, that's often a challenge for Fort Meade and Frostproof and making
Right.
sure that their students have those opportunities even with advanced placement and on-campus dual enrollment, because smaller the school, sometimes the scale is a challenge, but this will include them as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Respectfully, the challenge that they have is they may not have enough teachers that meet the certification requirements, so you lack equity in all the coursework. What we may find, and this is not uncommon for school districts, is that they'll start to identify a cadre of teachers who are able to get credentialed in areas that others are not, and they end up being flexed. And those students could follow a traditional college schedule while on campus, whereas they may have economics on every Tuesday and every Thursday for a 2-hour block each day. So that we were going to have to get creative over time to give these students the same experiences and the same opportunities. But as we work, we need to look at the new certification requirements for credentialing and work through Mr. Warren's office to now go through and pre-identify every teacher who potentially meets those criterion, and then work with them to identify if they have an interest in teaching the class.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Fields.
Yes, I think this is a great opportunity for our students and our families. I didn't see anything here that talks about how we're going to attract and how we're going to get the parents excited about it, because if the parents don't help the kids to understand the value of it, you can have this all day and nobody's going to be in the classes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's a lot of those things will happen with the schools. They know their families, they know their communities, and advertising that and making sure that we're bringing those 8th graders in early, because this coursework will begin as 9th graders, and making sure that we're providing that, not only the recruitment pieces and the attractor pieces, but also the support and anything that they may need to be successful in the program as well. And we'll have to work with our school partners to make those pieces happen. But very well noted, yes.
I think it's going to be very critical. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Dr. Allen?
Thank you, Superintendent. And I would say definitely, as Chair Wyatt noted, Lakeland, would love to see this move our way within District 1. Very exciting. I think out of desperation, I would say we have to put focus on our add-on FTE options, because when our students succeed, right, the district is going to succeed as well as it relates to our add-on FTEs. And, when we think about the dual enrollment engagement and dual enrollment diploma, those are critical areas. I think I was just refreshing my mind on that this morning. I think it's like 0.16 per student add-on FTE if they accomplish an A within a dual enrollment course. And then the student, when they're enrolled in that, then they obtain a 0.8 extra add-on FTE. So there's opportunities when our students succeed, we succeed as a district financially. I was thinking about the Ridge Community High in this conversation as well, because we recently had the wall-to-wall initiative presented to us. So I was curious if this is, from your perspective, does it contribute in any way to that wall-to-wall academy initiative at Ridge, complementary, or could it take something away from that initiative? Just your thoughts on that one.
I think it's definitely a complement to it. We have students who could be, because they still have to have electives, right? And a lot of elective opportunities for dual enrollment happen through our career academies as well. So I'm thinking that we can figure it out where the kids are kind of that hybrid, right? They get the best of both worlds. The idea is really to expand opportunities, not limit. And so our job is to figure that out for each student. How do we ensure that they're able to participate in this program and yet still take advantage of some career opportunities and coursework that they want to pursue?
Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, how many students are you envisioning within these two?
Haven't got quite that far.
Yeah.
We're hoping to, grab your support for sure, and then we'll engage in those conversations with the colleges and the schools and identifying students and making sure that we're targeting the right ones and recruiting them. All those pieces are yet to come.
Indeed. And how about early graduation outcomes? Is that even a potential, could you see? Because I do see within that FTE initiative, they typically group the early graduation in that category of dual
Right.
enrollment.
Yeah, so anytime those students graduate early, we still gain a little bit of that FTE, right, that following year. It's really up to the students. We have students now who enter high school, and they already know they're going to finish in 3 years or 3.5 years. And our job is really to support that goal and make sure their schedules are set up in a way that they're strategized to ensure that student has the opportunity should they choose to do that. We don't want to limit that either, but we also want to make sure that students are well aware of all the opportunities in high school. I know that there are opportunities I never dreamed of when I was in high school, right? It was the diploma, and that was kind of the path I was on. And so I know that as we engage our students and we find their niche, they may want to, and we do see this, where they kind of change their mind. Even this year, looking at early graduation applications, we've had a couple students withdraw, and they have figured out, oh, there's some other stuff that can still keep me engaged. And so our job is to help explore that option for them, but support them whatever that decision is with their family. And if it's early graduation, then we can make that happen. It would be a challenge, I think, to finish all the coursework. Not impossible, but certainly it could be a challenge. But for students who want to take that on, we're going to support it.
It is going to be challenging for them to finish their high school criterion and the associate's criterion with early college. This is not a target for early graduation. It provides the flexibility. However, students would have to then go out of their way, respectfully, to take courses during the summer, each summer, in order to complete the coursework on time to graduate early. So again, if they want the associate's degree, if the associate's isn't the end goal, and for many of the students, we would hope that that is the end goal, because who doesn't want to get an associate's degree tuition-free with no debt? Then at the end of the day, they have to take the initiative to take those extra courses. But right now, the structure, since it's starting even just their freshman year, they're on the appropriate trajectory to complete the associate's degree in 4 years. Early graduation just requires more of the individual student, independent of us, to seek out the opportunities. And those could be electives, right? They don't have to be core. It could be their physical education, their art, their foreign language, depending on their circumstance. So, but the flexibility is there to afford students the option to do that.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it does help a student. You know, when you take, let's say, the dual enrollment English course, it only takes a semester's worth of time to earn that full English credit for high school graduation.
Right.
So there are ways to strategize, but, you know, it's really about making sure students can get every bit of that opportunity at that school, regardless of where it comes from, because our schools do offer so much. And then if that just isn't that, then we'll work with them and see what we can help them accomplish.
Yeah, indeed. And then, you know, maybe one or two more questions here. As it relates to the articulation agreements, right? We have so many articulation agreements currently with other colleges. So as we look beyond these two, are you looking at utilizing some of those other articulation agreements within high schools?
Not at this time. I mean, we never shut the door, right? Anything's a possibility and an opportunity, but at this point, this is the focus as we get started.
Great. And, you know, just a little point of story, one of my very first graduates coming up in this May for my interactive and game design program that I started 4 years ago, he came out of Lake Gibson, 28 hours of college credit that he came into Florida Southern and was able to complete a computer science major and an interactive and game design major. So, I mean, the opportunities for students, not only, you know, from a cost-saving standpoint, if they choose to enter college. So many other variables in the mix of that. So I'm really in support of this, so thank you for your work on this.
Thank you.
That's it, Ms. Everett. Thank you very much. Next item before the board, I apologize, Ms. Amato is not able to join us today, but we do have Carla Devalier from the Office of Charter Schools. And so we have charter school enrollment for this school year. For the upcoming school year, excuse me.
Morning.
Good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent Hyde. Good morning, board. So this year and every year, the charters are able to request enrollment. High-performing charter schools are able to make Florida statute allows the higher performing charter schools to just make their request. The board doesn't necessarily have to grant permission for their request to be granted. And then our non-high performing schools do need their request to be presented to the board and to be voted upon. So this year we have 2 high performing schools who have made an increase in enrollment, and we have 7 non-high performing schools who have requested an increase. In addition to that, we did receive a letter of intent from a School of Hope after this report was made up, so that you will not see the school within the report. That school is RCMA. So please add an additional 80 seats for that school. And that would go under the non-high performing section. Are there any questions?
Ms. Fields?
Superintendent Hyde, if it's permissible, I would like to know why we are having the increases. If there's an increase, I would like to understand why. Specifically for Bridge Prep Academy, going from 400 to 650, an increase to 250. So if that can be explained to me, I would appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sure. So Bridge Prep will be adding grade 7 in the upcoming school year per their approved application. And additionally, they also feel that they have a substantial waiting list to sustain the additional 250 seats.
Ms. DeValia, to Ms. Fields' question, I seem to recall that several of these came to us with requests for increased enrollment at prior meetings, and they were approved. I don't recall any being declined. Is Bridge Prep one of those?
Correct?
Because they were adding a grade level, correct?
Correct.
Who else on this list, to Ms. Fields' question, do you recall asked for an extension, either expanded grade level or expanded enrollment that was approved? Do you recall?
That was approved. Do you mean their contract?
Yeah, so when they came to
Okay.
us earlier in the year, several of them requested adding an additional grade level or additional seats. And at the time, I recall that we approved those, and I'm just trying to remember, I don't recall the list of schools that came before us.
In this year, contracts that were renewed and that are also requesting an increase in seats were Bach Academy North, Janie Howard Elementary, Language and Literacy Academy for Learning, and that would be it from this list.
Would you mind sending that to me in an email, and I'll forward that to the board?
No problem.
They have that. Ms. Fields, was there another school on here you had a question about specifically, or?
I don't really have a specific school. I just think that when this comes before us, and if it's an increase, that we need to know why they're
Yeah.
increasing.
And I think that's part of the issue, is there were 3 or 4 of these on here we previously approved an increase of. Now it's simply being reflected in this
I don't
document.
remember that, though.
But we'd have to, and I agree that we should add a column or something on here that provides that description, but
It's also on the request for the non-high performing schools. Their request has to be made by November 1st of each year. And it is part of our school board policy that they submit data that justifies their request. And the school, their data was basically an email stating that they have a wait list and that part of their approved application states that they're adding a grade level.
Ms. Fields, if you and the board would allow me 24 hours, I'll provide you a summary for each one of these schools.
That's fine, Superintendent Hyde. I just think that if we're going to be voting on something like this, for me, I don't know about anybody else, I want to know why.
Absolutely. Happy to provide that information to you. And I agree, we need to provide clarification.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Cunningham?
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. And yeah, we in fact did approve this. It may have been at the meeting that Ms. Fields missed, I don't know, but we had like 4 or 5. You don't remember? It was out, yes, ma'am, for the funeral. It could have been, because we went through a lengthy process that day and talked about each school, and, because, we got the committee's recommendation and so forth. So there's several of them on here that, when he notes it, it'll be clear. My comment was, when I added up the very last column, right, you have increase or decrease as a whole. We have we have the PTM for 22-23, PTM for 23-24, and then the last column says increase or decrease. It would be helpful. I added it up with the pluses and the minuses, and it comes to a total net of 377 seats total. So I would just ask in the future, if you're going to update that sheet, put the total there, because if you do subtract out the 250 and some of the others that we've already talked about, it's really going to be insignificant, but each of those schools needs those increases to make it work financially for them. So that would just, I think that would help as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde.
Dr. Allen?
Thank you, Superintendent. Yeah, and just adding to that as well, when I look at the matrix, it would be nice to, if we actually had which ones, like highlighted, that would be considered high-performing charters.
Okay.
So there's a column.
Oh, I do see that now, okay, on that column. And just adding to what Ms. Cunningham said, I think the percentage increase was 2.6 based on that number from last year to this year. So, is that a typical increase of seats? Just would be good to know. I can understand with Bridge Prep, where we had previously already approved the grade level increase, why that number's higher. But also maybe the column of which schools are actually adding, because, right, we could see that there's a column for the ones that are currently serving what grade levels, but which ones are actually adding a grade level would be a nice column as well. And I think that's all I have.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ms. Wyatt?
Thank you. I'm less concerned with those adding seats up to their capacity and more concerned that we have several that are asking for reduced seats. Do we know why that? I mean, several of them are 50, 75. I know that 75 is the pre-collegiate academy that's had some issues, but especially the Discoveries, do we know why they're decreasing their seats? Are they losing students or?
No, Ms. Wyatt, I did confirm that they were decreasing because I'm the one that handles all of this paperwork in our office. And I wanted to make sure that that was correct. And Ms. Folks did confirm all of this information for me. They were very well aware that it was a decrease, but they did not provide any more information than that.
Do we know how many students they have currently?
I didn't run a number for it, but I can get it for you.
Okay. I just want to make sure students aren't leaving their school.
We have numbers as fresh as the 1st of April, but we can get a fresh number for you.
Actually, I believe the board just got an updated enrollment count from me 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So I'll send that to you, and if you'll confirm that that's accurate. I got that from Ms. Dines.
Yeah, sure.
She was able to pull the current enrollment at each school for me. And then I think your office added the column that basically said what their current capacity was, so I could show the board how many vacant seats that they had.
That's correct.
So board members, if you'll go back to that,
Okay.
it was linked to an email regarding the vouchers. So you have that, but I'll resend that to you today as well.
If we could, when this comes to us in the future, in future years, if we could have a column added that's how many students they currently have and their reason for increase or decrease. I feel like we used to get that, and I don't know if it was a different form we were looking at, but if we could get that again, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
Absolutely. And Ms. Miller?
Other than the list that that you were given, I agree that I'm concerned. I see some that are reducing seats that, for what I understood, had extensive wait lists. And so I would like to see the reason they need to reduce those. And also schools that are deferring, how long is left on the deferral that the process they're in? Because I know IDEA has additional years to defer, but it would be nice to have what that looks like, a time frame of when that deferment would be expired.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much for being here today and standing
No
in.
problem.
Appreciate you. Madam Chair, at this time, I'd like to bring up Principal Tom Patton from George Jenkins High School. I believe he has others in tow with him today. I don't know if he wants to have them join him. It looks like yes. Mr. Patton's before you today for a request of naming of a football field. For clarification, this is the naming of the field, not the naming of the stadium. Board members, you received a draft document from me some time ago that proposed costs and fees associated with naming rights, naming conventions for our campuses, and I'll be bringing that back to you. Notice that this is a workshop. This is not a voting meeting. There's no board meeting that follows. You will not be voting on this item, so there is still time for me to bring back that draft proposal for final approval. But it is important that Mr. Patton, since his SAC committee went through the process, that we allow him to come forward and express his interest in renaming their field.
First of all, good morning. I apologize for my voice. I'm battling sinusitis, so I'm on the mend. Got energy back a little bit today, but I did want to say thank you for considering this. This is a huge deal for our community. Jerry was a longtime staff member, ingrained in our community, not just the school, in our South Lakeland community, very involved in multiple groups, multiple clubs. I also thought it was additionally important, we have our student reps from our SAC committee. They're here. Reason for them is I thought, you don't get a chance often to make a decision on SAC where you see it's going to impact it. And these students may have children years down the road later, way later. They may end up going to Jenkins one day, and they're out there for an event, and they're going to hear Jerry Mayfield. And knowing they were part of that vote, it's kind of a big deal to me, and I wanted it to impact them, be one of those moments they always remember. So that's why they're invited. Most importantly, we have, of course, Mr. Hires, always important, but he was a good friend of Jerry, coached with him years ago before he moved up into administration. And then Jan, come on up here, Jan. Don't want to put my arm around you so get you anything. But it's Jerry's wife, and then family as well. I know we got Walker. I think we got a couple over there as well, and the daughter. Just good people. These are just good people, and it's a well-earned honor. And I just want to say thank you for your consideration, and I'm looking forward to celebrating this next school year in August with a big day. I don't know if you want to say anything.
We just appreciate this honor. It's surprising. I was in shock to get the call last week, and it means the world that Jerry would be remembered and honored in this way. So thank you all.
I see Chair Wyatt.
Yes, Superintendent Whitehead, when do you plan on bringing that policy back? Because we've discussed it several times at length about what gets named, because we have several schools now that have raised funds to name their.
I will resend that today, as well as some other documents that were requested, we discussed earlier today, as far as the charter school numbers. But I'd like the board, I have not received any recommendations for all changes to that document. It was based off of Lee County's structure, and it was very well written. We then pulled some language out to mirror our own naming rights and conventions, so we knew that we were in concurrence with that. It affords two options for naming. One is for historical, for an employee, and the other one is for revenue. And so there's obviously different buildings and different opportunities for both, and we provided a revenue structure in there. And we also made it clear that naming of facilities or naming of different properties outside of revenue would not live on forever, because generations come through and their interest in naming something that's previously been named might change. And so we have to keep that flexibility as well. But I will bring that back at the next board meeting, but I will include it in a draft draft document for your continued review.
Because we haven't voted on it yet. We just talked about it.
You haven't
times. Right.
Not my draft.
Yes, it is.
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay.
But we talked about it back in January. We just haven't officially voted. So I was just curious when it was coming back for a vote.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Ms. Winchester's better
So
than.
it'll be back in, she's so good. So it'll come back end of April.
So this has no impact whatsoever to your request. It's just, as a school district, we need to have a formalized process. And so congratulations to your husband. Clearly, he's had an impact. I mean, the fact that Mr. Patton, I don't think it took too much convincing to pull students out of class today, and you get to miss a couple class periods. But thank you, ladies, for being here. Appreciate you. And to family, thank you so much. Obviously, he was an incredible man, and it's a great opportunity for us to recognize his level of commitment and the impact he had on students and what he contributed over time. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I see Mr. Sharpless.
When something concerns George Jenkins High School, I talk to my mom. You might know her, Kelly Blankenship. She's one of your teachers. And I just want to say I fully support this naming of the field. I talked to her, and she told me that the staff at George Jenkins High School thought so highly of Coach May that they made T-shirts to honor him, and the proceeds went to his youth group at church. And so I think this is very appropriate and to honor his legacy.
Mr. Nolte?
And I'd like to thank Mr. Patton, Tom Patton, and his staff for a great job they've done. It's awesome, and I heard many great comments and stories about Jerry. So it was definitely a great job, and it shows that when we work together, we can get things accomplished. And keep up the good work, and God bless.
And Ms. Fields?
I want to thank you all for coming today, and I want to thank you all for bringing the students. And may the work I've done speak for me, and Coach May's work speaks for him. So we look forward to the naming in his honor.
Seeing no further questions, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Next item is the School of Hope Operator, RCMA. We will also bring Ms. DeValier back to the podium.
Hello again. At this time, the Charter Office presents a soft introduction to the application for the Redlands Christian Migrant Association, also known as RCMA. RCMA is a School of Hope operator deemed so by the state of Florida in May 11th of 2022. Being that it is a School of Hope operator, its application process is a little different than a traditional charter school application, meaning that its timeline, when we receive its letter of intent, which we received it March 15th, that's when it is activated. It starts at that time. And it is a 60-day timeline versus a 90-day timeline. So it is a very tight timeline. RCMA plans to open in the Mulberry area now in August of 2023. Again, this is a very soft introduction. They will present to you all in the April 25th work session, so you will receive much more information at that time. As I already mentioned, we received their letter of intent March 25th, and its timeline has already started. Are there any questions?
Ms. Miller?
I just want to say, if there are board members who haven't visited RCMA, it's something that we should all do. This is exactly what charter schools were made to do. This serves a population that we struggle to serve, and they do a really great job at it. Starting with infants all the way up until 8th grade, and then following these students as they go into high school. I'm excited about this expansion into Polk, and I look forward to supporting this. Thank you.
Dr. Allen?
Yeah, thanks for the soft presentation here. And, you know, I thought the proposal was extremely thorough. I was curious, too, somewhere in that proposal, it noted that there was a visit to Kingsford Elementary sometime late March. Do you know if that actually took place and what the outcome of that visit was?
It did take place. I was not a part of it. I believe Superintendent Hyde could provide a little more information on that if he would like to.
So, yes, they did ask to visit and tour that facility based off a conversation we were having. And so there could be an opportunity for a shared usage there. Given that their expansion will be gradual, I believe their first year needs are only four classroom spaces. That location would be very difficult to operate simply for 4 classrooms. But as I've messaged to the board before, I have an interest in bringing a proposal before the school board for an additional pre-K expansion, and that site would run very well with this program.
Very good. And then, you know, second question, I think this is my last one at this point. It did say within that first year, in regards to their budget, there was like $1 million for, and is that a state grant for School of Hope? They would receive $1 million grant in a sense for that first year, because I think it's called Projected School of Hope funding.
I'd have to check into it, but we can get back to you with clarification on it.
Okay.
And we did visit their location, to Ms. Miller's point. Ms. Amato, myself, our EL director previously, our prior EL director, we all visited the location, and I will lend my support to the school as well, simply because we don't have a dual language program. And they have been incredibly successful elsewhere with this. And so if this creates an opportunity for our students, then I am in support of the application as well in the program. But if anybody would like to tour one of their 2 existing facilities, I would strongly encourage you to do so, and we can assist by scheduling that for you.
Very good.
Mr. Sharpless?
Back in November, I actually toured RCMA's Juanita Child Development Center. I got to tell you, the compassion the individuals had for the children there was very evident to me. I think this proposed school is going to serve some of our hardest working families and honestly our most underserved children in Polk County. And so I really look forward to supporting this when it comes forward in the end of the month.
Thank you.
And Ms. Fields?
I wanted clarity, Superintendent Hyde. This would be in partnership with the school district, having some of our existing programs on campus with them. Correct me
If that particular facility was utilized, yes, ma'am, we would
okay.
share those.
All right, I just want to make sure that's understood, that we're not giving them the facility, we're just partnering with them and sharing it.
That is correct.
Okay,
Because that facility is currently slated to be demolished.
correct.
However, after the conversation we had earlier about how much it costs to build a building, I would rather see us repurpose that, and I think a pre-K expansion is desperately needed. Lord knows we have more than enough parents waiting in line on a waiting list to get into a pre-K center. So I think that provides us a unique opportunity in partnership with them.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Fields, I think that would require a more than usually thorough facilities use agreement,
Correct.
given the condition of the property, and making sure that we adequately address who is responsible for maintenance and repairs. And
Yes, sir.
yes, ma'am. So yeah, it'll be more than you normally see.
Thank you, appreciate your input.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. DeValia, that's the last of the questions for you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, the last item before us today during the workshop, I apologize, budget and staffing, although Mr. Pitts is not here. You're familiar with why Mr. Pitts is not present, although his family member is doing much better. So thank you for your thoughts on keeping him and his family, your thoughts and prayers. Workforce education request for elementary agriculture program. This has been something that Ms. Anderson has been working very diligently on and advocating for since I've arrived, because we knew that we needed to create new agriculture experiential programs in our elementary schools to get kids interested from middle and high. And in Polk County, with our rich history in agriculture, both in animal husbandry and in horticulture, it's important for us to maintain that sense of history and sense of purpose and identity. So kudos to Ms. Anderson, who I know was leading the way at the state level to get an elementary program approved. So I'll turn it over to you.
Awesome, thank you. Are we able to zoom out that presentation? It's like,
I don't have that. If the control room could modify the presentation. And here they come. Oop. Thank you, sir. See how quick and efficient they are. Amazing team that we have.
all right, so the goal of elementary agriculture is, like he stated, really what I'm here to talk about today is what we need to do at the state level with DOE to make sure that this is an actual course that our principals can schedule as a specials choice, as an elective choice for our elementary students. Our goal would be to have that instituted at the state level with the appropriate process with DOE, so that is an option or a choice for principals in the upcoming school year. This year we were able to pilot an elementary agriculture program at Willow Oak. We did that with grades 2 through 5 to kind of see what that would look like in Polk County, as well as statewide. There were about 6 schools statewide that piloted some elementary agriculture programs. I'm not aware of any of them being public schools. Every other school that we were aware of in this committee that was developed for this initiative were all charter schools. So Polk County is kind of leading the way in this, and that's been noticed at the state level, and they're really excited about that and the fact that we've already got so much support through the ag industry and for agricultural education. So why do we need this? I think that's important for you guys to understand why we're asking for further development of ag education. And then really it goes back to the economic impact that the ag industry has to Florida. It also goes back to the jobs. 2 million jobs statewide are attributed to the agriculture industry. Specifically in Polk County, it's about 103,000 jobs are related to the ag industry. So if we start educating students early on, not only about jobs, but also about how to be informed consumers, because the days of production agriculture are changing. Not everyone is involved in production agriculture. It's more consumer agriculture now. It's biotechnology, it's agricultural marketing, it's communications. So that industry is broad and varied, and we want to make sure that our students in Polk County, by the time they leave high school, have been exposed at some point to all of that industry has to offer. So not only for jobs, also for aligning with the state efforts like Fresh from Florida on healthier choices for food and being informed consumers. And then finally, like the superintendent mentioned just a moment ago, the sustainable pathways. If we can get to a point where we're introducing students in the elementary ages, we have that in middle and we have that in high, and we feel pretty strongly about those CTE programs that we have that have been well established, some for almost 60, 70 years. We've had ag programs like at Winter Haven High School in Bartow and Kathleen. So what can we do to further expand that and make that a more sustainable pathway? And that would be through that elementary component. When this conversation started, it kind of started at the University of Florida through their College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. And so it quickly became a conversation statewide. It quickly became a conversation outside of education within the industry, and then they started pulling in various people to help in this effort. So these are just some of the people and how it kind of came about, this conversation. It was myself, Kelly Kennedy, who is our Assistant Director of Manatee County Schools. She's also the Florida Association of Career and Tech Ed. She is our state representative for the teachers there. Deb Berry at University of Florida, Jennifer Morgenthau and Becky Spoonholtz both work with Florida Ag in the Classroom, which is a nonprofit that provides resources to teachers of all grade levels and all content areas, how they can incorporate agriculture into math, science, English, whatever that may be. So that's kind of how the committee developed. We began to bring in the local farm bureaus as it continued to grow with different assets of this process. So once we had a conversation with DOE and determined what that process looked like, they informed us that, your proposal would be much better accepted if not only you requested a course, but you gave us some standards and benchmarks to get started, because if we approve a course, that'll be the next thing we ask for. So before we submitted this whole packet to DOE, we wanted to have something to go with it. So we started building standards and benchmarks. Manatee County took the reins on that. Their charter elementary ag program has been established for several years. So they've had a teacher in the classroom teaching this for the last several years. She had a skeleton of frameworks that then we refined and we looked at and asked for some reviewers of those, including Michelle Kurtz, Michelle Townley at Willow Oak, and we included University of Florida IFAS Extension Nicole Walker as a review of those standards. So we've now included the science, the social studies, health resiliency, all of those things that we believe the state would be looking for in a well-rounded course standards. Lastly, we were very concerned about sustainability. This sounds great to roll out a course, it sounds great to roll out standards, but what are we going to do to support teachers? And what kinds of teachers are we looking for? Are we looking for elementary education teachers that have no experience in ag? Are we looking for ag teachers that have no experience in elementary? And so we wanted to make sure that there was sustainability there to support either type of teacher that may be interested and principals felt appropriate to teach this course. So through University of Florida, they are working on a USDA grant that would be submitted after the state's approval of this course, called the PDAL grant, Professional Development for Ag Literacy, which would provide funding for professional development for teachers. And it would be 2 tracks, just as I mentioned. The elementary teacher that needs agricultural experience and the agriculture teacher that needs elementary experience. We have met multiple times with our friends to the north. We went to Georgia to talk about how they instituted elementary agriculture there. They took a legislative route to make that happen in 2019. So we've learned kind of from their mistakes and from what went well, that legislatively this was not the route we wanted to go. We wanted to make a request organically through a local school board. They recommended the PDAL grant. University of Florida, University of Georgia, Auburn, and Clemson are all working together on this professional development for ag literacy grant and planning some online type support systems as well as some local professional developments through University of Florida teacher conferences. So we do feel like the sustainability is there, and we will be able to offer professional development for whatever teachers need support. So this is kind of what the process was explained to us from DOE. How do we need to do this? Determine the need, develop some standards, review them, and then the official request. And that's what I'm here today to ask of you. I need a letter from our local school board supporting the initiative of elementary agriculture. That will be what DOE takes as their request. We felt strongly, and really the entire committee and everyone from University of Florida and College of Ag were like, this is a no-brainer to talk to Polk County. They're the ones that are kind of leading this. They're the ones that understand why it's important. And so that's why this request is coming to you today. And so what I'm asking is if I can get a letter of support to DOE to adopt an elementary course code for agricultural education. And we would like to do that somewhat soon, within the next 30 days, so that we can get this ball rolling and that it's a developed course for next school year. Course submissions can be taken at any time through DOE. There is not a deadline, but we do feel like it would be a disservice if we did this in the summer and didn't give principals any time to really plan for this if it's something they choose to do. I do think after what we've seen at Willow Oak this year that we are going to have principals in Polk County that are interested in this, and it will continue to spread. So I know the smaller counties that I have had conversations with are very excited about this. They did not feel like they had the support in the smaller counties to initiate this, so they're appreciative that there are others that are looking into this statewide. What questions do you have for me?
Mr. Sharpless.
I don't really have a question. I've told you this privately, but I just want to make sure it's on public record. Thank you. Thank you for being a leader and spearheading this. You know my passion for agricultural education. That's what I teach at the college level. The fact that Polk County, we're a flag bearer of this, makes this board member very happy. And if we could clone Jessica Anderson and we could make 50 of them, this district will be better. I can promise you that.
Chair Wyatt.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. I think that's certainly something we can go ahead and get on the agenda for the next board meeting to be able to approve it. I know that has to happen fairly quickly by
We'll go ahead and get a draft.
today.
Board review it.
Perfect. If we can have that come to us at the board meeting on the 25th, that would be great.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Fields.
I think that we have the rich history of ag programs in our schools. And so I think this is definitely in alignment with what we already are doing. My question is, I think it's great for elementary age students, but do we have a middle school course in place?
We do. So we have middle school agriculture exploration, and that leads to their introduction to agriculture. And then in the 8th grade level, they have the option of fundamentals ag services, or they can take the 9th grade course of ag foundations. So I have agriculture in just about every single middle school in Polk County. I have teachers that I support there. We're actually one of the leaders and have the most ag teachers in Polk County, almost statewide. Hillsborough only beats us by a small margin, but we have more middle school ag teachers than pretty much any other county.
Do we have one at Kathleen Middle?
We do. They have a huge land lab of about 35 acres, so.
Thank you.
Ms. Miller.
You know that I've been very excited about this. I visited another school, not Willow Oak, and the name just left me, way south Mulberry, that had a program. And so we have people working on this already. This will just help support what they're doing. And I also was at Blake, and they had like a PE teacher that got super excited about ag and started a program. So I think this will only help what they're doing there. My question is, because I've asked, this is always what I ask, we have some great principals or principals who are just familiar with ag who will jump right on this. But if this is working, Superintendent Hyde, when do we show the data of how it's successful with students and encourage? Because if we just wait for principals, I wasn't raised in ag, so I may never say, oh, I'm interested in that. I just don't have the knowledge, but it would benefit my students. So when can we move from piloting this to people who raise their hand to suggesting very strongly that they consider? So we have opportunity to expand this to more schools.
There's a minimum of 2 years if you're going to talk about actually creating a valid and reliable data set. So year one would be enrollment, who's enrolling, who's participating, demographic data, who stayed within the program, who successfully completed the program. That's easy data in year one. Year two is, again, more important because we're looking for replication of those numbers. How many of those students who initially took the class found enough value in it to go into course number 2? And so I think you'll see a progression of data all the way through high school, because at some point you're going to want to know how many students started in ag in elementary school and maintained an interest in agricultural programs through high school. So I think we won't have a complete data set for about 12 years, but initially we will have good enrollment and participation numbers. It's going to be very difficult if you're talking now, how do I correlate that to academic performance? It's going to be difficult to provide a direct correlation to that. However, there are other factors such as student behavior, truancy, absenteeism, and other factors that we could attribute to them being more engaged. And please keep in mind that there's a supplement to this. We moved aggressively this year, thanks to Ms. Dodge and everyone else, and Ms. Anderson, on the homeland proposal. We asked the legislature to provide us with funding to convert that into an agricultural field trip location for our elementary students as well. So we're excited about that. So this will run along with that. But so hopefully I addressed your question about the data. I mean, year one and year two, we'll be tracking those students for continued enrollment and interest. We can survey them. It's going to be hard to show an academic piece initially because there's really no measure to show that correlation other than surveying students. Are you more interested in school? Are you more engaged in school? Are your grades improving? Those kinds of things. And some of that data we can pull. Hopefully we would see, in all honesty, we should see stronger math, reading, and science outcomes as a result. Because now this is a class where you're actually applying those concepts and learning. And ag is far more than just the science of growing things, whether it's plants or animals. There's also a huge communication component to it. And advocacy, and I think you'll see more of our students entertain that as well. And I think for I know it's near your heart, is transition. You know, I think these are new opportunities for our students. Ms. Cunningham, was at one of our community events where a stakeholder asked, why are we not creating academies around the citrus program? And I said, well, unfortunately, there's just not a high interest in that right now. However, if it's true that they found a solution or potential solution for greening and that industry starts to recover, then absolutely this would be a great pathway for that, for our students into horticulture, into high school. So,
Well, and kind of to speak to your point as well, I mean, citrus is a perfect example. We have a biotech program. That's really what the citrus industry is about now. It's, yes, involves horticulture and that sort of thing, but biotechnology is really where it's at, as well as precision agriculture with drones and things like that. So it's becoming more technical. And I think what we're seeing, the school you mentioned that you've seen out that way. It's probably our Bruce Wagner.
It is our Bruce Wagner.
Yes. And so what I think some of our schools are doing and some of our teachers have been really good at is shoehorning some ag lessons through a STEM route.
Okay.
And so this kind of gives them an outlet in a true class so that it becomes more consistent.
That's been done primarily through grants that they've written for hydroponics and greenhouses and butterfly
Right.
gardens and their chicken coop. I mean, those types of things. So,
Right.
And it's been.
oh,
done-
sorry.
It's
I'm
been done
sorry.
with a lot of volunteer, like I know teachers and their husbands out there on the weekends, working the chicken coops and things to make sure they're going to be ready for kids. So I just think if we have those dedicated teachers who want to share, we need to provide them that opportunity. So I'm excited to see this grow. Thank you, Ms. Anderson, for your work.
You're welcome.
Mr. Nolte?
Yes, I agree. I'd like to thank you for your hard work, you and the team, and this would get several students, once the program gets going, I'm sure they'll be enthused to come to school just to take that class, and the more we can expand our educational courses and classes, I think it'll help our discipline problem, and it's going to help everything, and let's get it going. Thank you very much. Thank you, Superintendent Hyde.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions, Ms. Anderson, thank you very much. And of course, he just took the opportunity to step out. Would somebody please grab him? So this was not originally on the agenda, but since we're transitioning into budget and staffing, I think it's important for us to introduce someone new to our organization. As you know, Major Seymour was promoted, but she's still going to supervise all of school safety and security. But under her is our additional staff, and she had a recent retirement. And so we're very pleased to have Ryan Shea here with us, Captain Shea. And I've known Captain Shea since I first moved to Polk County. He had a pleasure. He came out and did a safety check on my home and all those things, and they were very gracious when our family was moving here. So if you want to come down, say a few words, but you don't have to, but you're welcome to. And please, if you'll join me in welcoming him to our team. He has a very rich background, and he will bring a lot to the table for us moving forward. Thank you. Mr. Shea.
Thank you, Mr. Hyde. I appreciate you all affording me this opportunity to say good morning to you. I will be brief because my major is standing back there and making sure that I am brief. So I come to you with 24 years of law enforcement experience here in Polk County. I was recently the captain over our Southeast District, which is mainly Lake Wales, Frostproof, contract cities of Dundee, Eagle Lake, and Frostproof. So I have contract experience. This is a much larger contract, I know, but I look forward to that endeavor. I also have 19 years of special weapons and tactics experience, most recently serving as the tactical commander for the Sheriff's Office, overseeing SWAT operations, crisis negotiation, and mobile field force. So a little bit of that background that Mr. Hyde mentioned, but I'm really excited to be a part of your team, and I look forward to working with you. I'll answer any questions if you have any. Seeing none. But thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
You're off the hook, Mr. Shea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Captain, sorry. As I mentioned, Mr. Pitts is not with us today. However, the last item before the board today is an intern and apprentice program. Starting the first summer I got here, when I met with our trades groups, a lot of them had concerns that we weren't bringing enough students in to the fold and providing them with opportunities to get exposed to many of our trades in a safe manner. Obviously, certain trades our students cannot be as hands-on with, like electrical and others. But in some, our students have the right skill set that they can actually directly apply this. The intern job description also, keep in mind, serves multiple purposes. Not only can we utilize that, but this is also the internship that we have told the community, if they're looking for interns to pay, we now have a job description because we can help offset and defray some of those costs. This will also fit in well for the job description under the civics courses and under the civics high schools, where they can then get placed in internships as well. And we, in partnership with the municipality, can offer a pay a supplement for those students. The pre-apprentice program is specific for our trades and maintenance programs. Our plumbers, our electricians, our air conditioning staff. Obviously, none of our students will be put in a position where they're doing something that's unsafe for them to be doing. But this is a great experience. Many of them expressed that when they were in school, that's what got them hooked and actually brought them to the county to work for us. And so our hope is that many of our students who are right now at Travis and Ridge and other places exploring these career tech ed programs will now have the opportunity to get paid over the summer to work for us, and therefore may become a strong candidate for us in the very near future. So you have 2 job descriptions before you. All the funding comes out of Title IV. And so this comes out of Steve Cochran's shop, so we're very excited to have this opportunity. We've now had it for 2 years. We did a small version of this last year, just internally, using a previous existing job description, but we did not have the bandwidth that we'd like to have now. So with the board's approval, at the next meeting, there will be a large advertising campaign and an aggressive advertising campaign at both Travis and Ridge and at our high schools amongst the career tech ed programs to encourage them to participate and let them know that these opportunities exist, albeit they are somewhat limited. And this also includes our landscaping teams and everyone else, so there's great opportunities for earning potential for our students, and we do pay a competitive rate at $15 an hour. So, and I see Chair Wyatt.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this. I know one of the things that we worked on just before Superintendent Byrd left was making sure that our jobs in general, we tell kids go to these career academies because then you can go straight into the workforce, but many of our jobs at the district didn't align with that. So I know we've updated several of those job descriptions to make sure that they're eligible to apply when they graduate. But I think being able to get them in the door before they graduate and can see what we have to offer here is a really great opportunity. So thanks for bringing this forward, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
Mr. Sharpless.
I think this is great for recruitment and retention, or recruitment of talent specifically, but also something I tell my college students. It's important to do these kind of opportunities, internships or apprenticeships, because sometimes you learn what you don't want to do, and that's just as valuable. So some of these students might do one of these apprenticeships and realize, rather than starting their first job and being miserable, hey, this isn't maybe what I want to do. And so it's important. But I think as far as a recruitment pipeline, this is going to be a great step.
Thank you. Seeing no further questions or comments, Madam Chair, that concludes the workshop for today, other than board member comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. Thank you, Superintendent Hyde. Do we have any board member comments, whether it's updates from your committees, liaison positions? I'm not seeing anyone on the speaker list.
I'll have comments.
Ms. Fields?
I went to my first value adjustment board meeting, and it was interesting, is all that I can say. And I'll leave that alone.
All right. Value adjustment is interesting for anyone looking to serve on that committee in the future. Any other updates, questions, concerns? Ms. Miller, hold on. All right, Ms. Miller.
I just have a question because I wasn't here, but how did we perform at the Polk Education Foundation fundraiser?
Superintendent Hyde?
I don't know how everybody else performed. But
I was talking about our board and superintendent team.
we did not have a superintendent team because we had one of our team members was in London and the other team member had a high school volleyball game and he was not going to give up attending that. And so it was Mrs. Hyde and myself were the remaining members. Freddie was at a volleyball game.
Oh, wow.
He was busy with varsity volleyball. But all in all, Polk Education Foundation did exceptionally well. They raised more money this year with a smaller group than they did the year prior. It's really an event that continues to grow. They'll pay particular attention. The problem for this year was there was a Rotary event that was conflicting with this, so they have to find a good niche somewhere in the calendar so that they can continue to support the program. But a great time was had by all. Good food, good fun, great camaraderie, and I won a shotgun as a result of the turkey shoot. So
Nice.
yeah. So
Thank you for participating.
thank you for teeing that up.
Congratulations. When we know the date for next year, we can rally the team again.
Yes, absolutely. Madam Chair, if no other board members have anything, I just want to remind, we'll send out the service information for Ms. Downing, the passing of her husband, Isaac, and you'll have that information today as well, if you don't have so already.
Thank you. As far as the staffing updates go, can we get a list at some point of what you're planning to bring to each work session? I know there's several still more to come, but just kind of so we know what the plan is moving forward.
We catch
That
up
would
with
be
Mr.
great.
Pitts this week, and absolutely.
Perfect.
I'll try and put that in the Friday update.
Okay, thank you so much. Any other questions, concerns, good of the orders? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned.